So, I had a lot of hope for James Harden going into the 2023 season. In an earlier video titled 2023 Eastern Conference Predictions, I actually had the 76ers coming out of the East, and James Harden was a huge reason why I made those predictions. I mean, for a lot of reasons, such as taking a pay cut, I thought he was finally turning the corner in his career. But then, it happened again.
James Harden with a crossover ball, and he didn't fully establish, and they needed quick.
Daryl Morey is a liar, and I will never be a part of an organization that he's a part of.
Ladies and gentlemen, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. This is the never-ending nightmare of James Harden. James Harden, aka The Beard, is a bit of an enigma. When it comes to pure basketball talent, nobody doubts him. The man's a genius. I mean, he's led the league in scoring 3 times, led the league in assists twice, is a 10-time All-Star, was selected to the All-NBA First Team 6 times, and was voted the most valuable player once. Even in 2023, when he had his lowest scoring season in literally a decade, the man still averaged nearly 11 assists per game and also had an effective field goal percentage of 54%, which is just as good as when he won MVP. Another noteworthy career achievement of Harden was when he averaged 36 points per game back in 2019. Did you know that the last person to average more points than Harden did in a single regular season was none other than the GOAT himself, Michael Jordan, back in 1987? And aside from Jordan, the only other player to ever average more points than Harden in NBA history is Wilt Chamberlain. For all of these reasons, no one doubts his basketball talents. But at the same time, what also comes with James Harden's talents is a nightmare. You see, in Harden's mind, the world revolves around only him, and if something irks him, he sabotages everything. Here's what I mean. In 2015, when the Houston Rockets mounted that 3-1 comeback against the Los Angeles Clippers, the Rockets head coach at the time, Kevin McHale, infamously benched James Harden in the fourth quarter of Game 6, and Harden did not like that. According to McHale in a recent interview, the next year he came to camp, he was fat and didn't feel like playing, and I got fired 11 games into the season. He had a plan. Then in 2021, when he was clearly unhappy with where the Rockets were in terms of talent, chemistry, and coaching, he showed up to training camp really fat. Then, after a bad beat to the Lakers just 8 games into the season on January 12th, came his infamous exit interview.
We're just not good enough. We don't obviously chemistry, talent-wise, just everything, and it was clear. I mean, this situation is crazy. It's something that I don't think can be fixed.
The Rockets at this time clearly had a disgruntled star, and their best bet was to trade him while his stock was still high. Because as fat as he was at this time, just one season prior, the man still averaged 34 frickin' points. Sheesh. So anyway, the Rockets bent to Harden's will. With him being fat and unhappy, they traded him for what they felt would help them rebuild for the future. Harden, on the other hand, well, he was now playing with his former teammate again, the 2014 MVP Kevin Durant, and Uncle Drew. He got what he wanted, but as soon as he found out, it wasn't perfect enough for him. You probably already know the story, but injuries kept the Brooklyn Nets in limbo. Their big three were never really able to play together, and in all of Harden's time with the Nets, which includes their regular and postseason games, their big three only played a total of 16 games together. Then on top of that came his relationship with Kyrie. Not only was Uncle Drew only allowed to play in away games, which frustrated Harden, but he was doing some stuff that made Harden feel uncomfortable as well. You see, according to The Athletic, in a game against the Cleveland Cavaliers on January 17th, Kyrie Irving lit up some sage and started a ritual to cleanse negative energy. This all happened pretty much right in front of Harden, who was completely creeped out. From Harden's point of view, Kyrie had 3 heads. A close source said there was definitely a weird vibe between them. Anyway, y'all know the story. Whether or not Irving had intentionally or unintentionally done something to make Harden feel weird, this would be the second time in 2 years that Harden requested a trade. And before we knew it, before we had time to digest it all, Harden was traded to the 76ers. And just like that, he was now playing with yet another MVP, or future MVP at least. Honestly, Harden did well with the 76ers. He helped Joel Embiid win an MVP, and they were really so close to arguably getting to the NBA Finals, but then choked in Game 6 against the Celtics before ultimately collapsing in Game 7. And that's where we find ourselves today. He was promised by his beloved general manager, Daryl Morey, that if he opted into his $35 million player option, that he would be traded quickly, but because he wasn't, and because Morey shut down trade talks, Harden has once again started another NBA nightmare. You know, if Harden was a complete superstar who could carry his teams to the promised lands, this would be a different story, because then he'd be worth the nightmare. But the truth is, he always lets his team down when the stakes are at their highest. Like, for example, in Game 6 of the 2017 Western Conference Semis against the Spurs, the best player, Kawhi, had to sit out due to an ankle injury. It was Harden's time to take over. It was Harden's time to throw a haymaker. It was Harden's time to show the world what he's really about. But instead, he scored 10 points, shot 18% from the field, turned the ball over 6 times, and committed 6 personal fouls. Then in 2018, in the Western Conference Finals against Golden State, despite CP3's injury, Harden had 2 golden opportunities to seal the deal, but once again fell short just before the finish line. In specific, the Rockets were up 61-51 at the half for Game 6, but then were outscored 31-9 in the fourth quarter and lost. Then in Game 7, 54-43 was the score going into the half for the Rockets, but again, Harden wasn't able to close it out, and the Rockets were ultimately eliminated. And then there was the more recent 2023 Eastern Conference Semis against the Boston Celtics. Harden's team was again up 3-2 in the series. A win against the Celtics would have given the 76ers a good chance to reach the NBA Finals, but I ain't saying it's all Harden's fault, but in Game 6, when they had a chance to close out the fourth quarter, Harden laid an egg with 0 points. Then in the decisive Game 7, Harden had 9 points and 5 turnovers. So, despite demanding this, demanding that, acting like a Kardashian, and getting pretty much everything he wants, Harden always ends up playing small when his team really needs him. Like, it's not about losing in these big games. It's how he's losing them. Laying eggs, letting big leads slip, and just coming out really small without putting up a valiant fighting effort are the end results of the James Harden nightmares. That's something organizations have to really take into consideration about James going forward. Oh, and one other thing organizations have to really watch out for as well is how much adult entertainment there is in the cities where Harden plays away games. What I mean is that some people have actually put in Harden's box score performances into data and weighted against how much adult entertainment was in that particular city. And the conclusion was, statistically, to a significant degree, the game performances of James Harden declines in cities with higher rated adult entertainment. But anyway, at this point in his career, Harden has played with 3 other MVPs, Russell Westbrook, Kevin Durant, and Joel Embiid. He's also played with 3 other future Hall of Famers in Dwight Howard, Chris Paul, and Uncle Drew. They were all pretty much in their primes as well when Harden played with them, and yet each one of those partnerships ended with a nightmare. Some were bigger than others, but nonetheless, this is the never-ending nightmare of James Harden.